and welcome to The Robust Marketer. Today we have a friend of mine, James Van Elswyk. James is the founder and CEO of Purple Leads. He joined us in Berlin at Facebook Mastery Live, and it was one of the hits of the show. People still are talking about his presentation, the information he gave, how valuable it was. Purple Leads is a massive solar lead generator, and James is an awesome personality and someone who's doing some really cool things in the industry. Welcome to The Robust Marketer today, James. How you doing?
Hey, how are you, Eric? Thank you for chatting with me tonight.
And you're calling from Israel?
Yes, I am in Tel Aviv.
Lovely. I've yet to be there, but I want to go soon. And you've been to where I'm from. You've been to Victoria, British Columbia.
Yes, many years ago, but it's an absolutely beautiful place.
Nice. Well, one of these days we'll have to have a conference out here or something. That would be a lot of fun.
I'm
Um,
down.
but let's start with how we always like to start about your marketer's hero's journey. What got you to where you are today in a nutshell? Where did you start and where are you now?
Sure. So I'm currently doing lead gen. I think that's one of my core focuses, and that originated because I was the guy buying leads originally. So I owned and operated very large call centers in the U.S., both in Illinois and Florida, and I sold things on the phone, and I had to buy leads to do this. And the call center business is much more difficult than the affiliate world or lead gen business, but I didn't know that then. And I was going through the process of selling and just realized that my main expense was my leads. So I got into the idea of, okay, I'm going to generate my own leads so I have quality and I'm not beholden to lead generators. And once I got into it, I really liked it. I started generating quite a bit of leads, mainly on television and radio. And then I was generating so many leads, I figured to offset costs and actually turn a profit, I would sell to other call centers. And it was the first time I got a kind of taste of monetizing my marketing besides turning it into deals. And when my last call center started to do real poorly, it was very difficult because in call centers, you don't even break even for a year and a half. You know, it's like the complete opposite of affiliate marketing. I decided I was going to be done with the call center thing and just do the lead generation side. So I closed down the call centers. The remaining business, I moved to a call center in the Dominican Republic to handle. And then I decided I wanted to take some free time, travel, and just kind of learn how to generate leads. So I started working on generating student loan consolidation leads on Facebook, and was also traveling. I moved to South America. I lived in Medellin, Colombia. I lived in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Just enjoyed myself, learned Spanish, studied jiu-jitsu, ate food, had fun. And then I got turned on to STM from just trying to find information and learn how to market. And I went to the London meetup, and there I really, for the first time, met like affiliates and people that were really making money. And I just saw some of the richest dumb people that I had ever met. You know, I was just like, wow, you have all these people that are really not doing much, but they're making a bunch of money. And I just thought that the whole industry was kind of soft because it didn't conform to like, you know, usual business principles, but there was just a lot of money there and a lot of quick money. So I just decided to become a part of it. Just started working at that, testing, losing, and finally kind of started to figure some things out on natives. And then I joined forces with my current partner, Daniel Yavor, and we opened the office here in Israel. And we've been generating a lot of solar leads, as well as a lot of other leads, but mainly solar leads for almost 3 years now. And that's just been like a really fun journey. It gave me the chance to spend money on natives and learn, spend money on Facebook and learn, spend money on Google and learn. So it's given me a chance to really kind of build out my marketing knowledge. So it's been a blast.
I imagine it's helpful to pick a trend that's like it's not going anywhere. You know, it's going to evolve and it's going to change, but it's like this trend towards alternative energy is
Yes.
going to continue. So it's something you can ride and something you can grow with, it seems like.
Yes.
What
I
would
mean,
you
like, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what would you say is like the state of solar now? Like, we're always in this business where people who want to jump onto trends, they're always too late. You know, they're always, but I, or a little bit too late. There's still, I'm sure getting, that you can still probably jump into it to some extent. But what would you say is the state of solar currently for
Yeah,
people
it's
looking to get
interesting.
into it?
Yeah, it's actually growing, believe it or not, because solar has been limited to the states that had the best benefits for solar installations. So everybody's been marketing to California and Arizona and New Jersey, But as the laws have changed, solar has now opened up in other states. So it's almost fresh there. Like they've never seen the ads. So if I advertise now in Pennsylvania or Oregon or Florida, they've never seen my ads. So the ads that were working a year ago that are completely burnt out in California are brand new. So this has been fantastic. And I think that the bigger play is the thing that holds people back on the solar installation side as far as businesses is that not all states will reimburse you for the extra energy you generate.
That
And
you
this
put
makes
back
it
into the grid. Yeah.
correct, correct. So the idea is that you get enough energy to fuel your house. The extra energy you sell back to the power company and they utilize it. But what's going to happen now is, and what will make it be able to be 50 states, is now there's going to be the energy battery packs. So now in every state, it's going to make sense to do solar because now when you have extra power, you can store it and use it. So I think in a year and a half, we're going to see solar go nationwide. And that's just on the US front. Now, the
Yeah.
state of solar in other countries is expanding. We generate leads for solar in France, Germany, Italy, Australia, Belgium. It's really been popping up anywhere. And it's fun to scale a vertical to another geo because really the things that have been working in the US usually translate pretty quickly to the other geos. Right now, France is super hot. We do a ton of volume every day in France. Um, and it's just been a great spot for us.
That's super. And literally, you're just translating over your landing pages. There's no cultural nuances you're having to figure out. It's like people want this trend, and you can serve it up to them.
Yeah, it's like there's minor tweaks based on like, okay, what are the government benefits and things of this nature. But it almost always works because the cost per click is almost always cheaper outside the United States, and the payouts are quite good. So it kind of, even if you have to make the ads a little less sexy than the United States because there aren't quite the government benefits, it still backs out really nice.
Is the reason that some states don't accept power back into the grid as a bonus, is that a political issue or is that a technological issue? Is the grid set up to handle this currently without any big changes?
Yeah, so I mean, look, by no means am I a solar
Political
expert.
expert?
Yeah, yeah, but it seems pretty power company driven. Like some
Yeah,
people want to participate, some people don't, and the size of the subsidies based on the state. So I would say it's more political.
yeah,
Um, yeah, some have financing, some don't. So I don't get too deep into it. I just look
yeah.
at payouts and costs.
Nice. That's awesome. I just read an article I was telling you earlier that Saudi Arabia is starting to do this, and I'm sure this is happening all over the world. But they got a lot of sun in Saudi Arabia, so sounds like could be a
Yes.
good opportunity there. So people looking to get into it, just keep your ear to the ground, find out the places where it's happening, where there are the best incentives, and potentially focus on those. I'd say.
Yeah, listen, at Purple Leads on our network side, we have offers for so many different geos, different states that people just need to ask. You know what I mean? There's so many different new opportunities outside of California and Arizona and these other ones. It's there. We have the offers, France and everywhere else. So it's pretty plug and play at this point.
That's awesome. So okay, cool. So solar is what you guys are focused on, but I know that you're also focused really heavily in your business on training methods. This is one of the reasons that we're trying to work together. That I'm so keen on working with you. Is you've got these systems that you use to scale your campaigns and also to train your media buyers internally. You seem like a very sort of systems oriented person. So can you talk a little bit about how you've developed, your systems, how you think about advertising when it comes to these things?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, systems are my life, especially when it comes to business. With call centers, it is once you get over like 80 agents, they say there's the rule of 8 to 80. Scaling a call center above 80 salespeople, if you don't have the proper systems in place, you have 80 people on the phone saying whatever they want, however they want. And optimizing a call center is the same as optimizing media buyers or optimizing campaigns or anything. It's basically if you can't measure, you can't manage. So step one is I just measure the performance of everything. I measure the output and profit per media buyer, just like I used to measure the output and profit per salesperson. And then I create systems. I've always believed that, like with employees, unless they're management, if they have to think for themselves, like I failed. Like I can't expect them to make the right decisions. My job is to make the decisions for the company. My managers make the next level of thinking, and the people that are getting paid to execute should have a low level of thought process. They should really just execute at a high level, kind of free them up from that.
Yeah.
So I make everything systematic. I don't believe in any media buying based on gut or feel. The only thing that I believe involves gut or feel is creatives. when you write ad copy or you write images. That's the only time, or maybe like you're picking an audience, that you have a thought, I have a gut feel this is going to work, but then it's quickly put into the math formula, then it's quickly tested. So I just have instructions for everything I do. If it's testing images, there are rules. If it's testing audiences, there are rules. If it's scaling, there are rules, so that everything happens systematically. Because now, once you get a bunch of media buyers buying media, if they're all just kind of doing it their own way, it's very difficult to troubleshoot and pinpoint when their campaigns go sideways. So we approach it very systematically here so we can have some predictability, because there's so much variability on the Facebook side. You know, it's an auction-based system. And on the buyer side, since we sell directly to retail, it's a lot of variable. So it's important for me to optimize and stabilize the labor force so we can have a solid yield.
That's really interesting. So, yeah, with Facebook changing all the time as well, you don't, the thing that worked for you yesterday isn't necessarily going to be the thing that drives your campaign forward. So when we talk about testing, let's first of all mention, so the Facebook Masterclass will have launched by the time this podcast comes out, which is great. James is contributing a module on testing. It's called Stop Guessing. And it's his testing methods that save him millions, which is really cool. So talk about those a little bit. Like, are they things that are very difficult to implement? Are they, like, I imagine they're rigorous, but the baseline point of testing is to make sure that you know when you do something and you have an action that it was from the thing that you did. It's basically just a cause and effect type relationship that you're trying to prove.
Yes. So my thing with testing is I want to test as cheaply as possible because it's a necessity to test. So it's important to organize the testing in a flow that's as cheap as possible. And the second thing is you need to test until the results are definitive so you can have confidence in your scale. If you don't have a sound foundation of testing and you know everything is correct, then you just can't pull the trigger on big budgets with peace of mind. So the key thing, and I'll give like a quick example here. If I have to test a landing page and I have to test audiences per se, and I need to test images, well, it's important to me to just complete the image test perfectly because I want to get the clicks as cheap as possible so that when I test the audience or the landing page, let's say I'm going to use $50 to test an audience. If I can get the clicks down to 50 cents, I have 100 clicks worth of testing. If I didn't do a nice job testing images and I rush, now my clicks are $1 and I'm buying a lot less data for my money. So it's about having a systematic approach to testing everything in order, being disciplined, and I think also not scaling tests. I think very often media buyers, especially in the beginning, they set up a test, it's going nice, the test actually succeeds, and they don't turn the test off, and they kind of just try to scale that thing up, and then maybe because it's making money and this and that, but I don't do it this way. I test everything in a specific pattern. So when it's time to like hit the gas, I don't even need to look in it. I test until I have full belief in the components, so I can scale with abandon.
And then you literally start it. You won't try to, like, the last test that works best. You don't just take that and push budget to it. You will then copy that maybe and start fresh. And
yeah, I feel like it's some type of certain level of discipline that I don't know. I don't even know if it's the right thing, but I just feel like it's important when I train media buyers to instill in them the idea to not fall in love with the little petty things like a winning test. Otherwise, it just breaks the system because now you're scaling a winner as opposed to following the system and really scaling. So now the results are kind of skewed. There's like I try to instill in them and myself a certain level of discipline. When a test is completed, we turn it off and then we hit phase number 2. And it's hard to have that discipline because you're making money on it. But you can't, if you don't turn it off and you don't discipline yourself, you lose sight of like the big picture, which is it's just a step until the big scale.
this is really interesting. I think it's a theme that I'm noticing across all of the things that we're doing with Facebook right now. Like, I'm actually someone who I've used Facebook for user acquisition. I've used it in a few other places, and I didn't have the rigor. I didn't have the discipline probably. And I had some good results. That's the thing, is you get these good results. Facebook is such an amazing advertising system. Even without the discipline, you can get some decent results. You can get some wins. But the difference between the people that maybe spend, $100 a day or even $1,000 a day and the people that spend $20,000 a day is that rigor and that discipline. So for people that really want to take shit to the next level, I think these systems are super important to consider. That's obviously what we're going to be putting forward in the masterclass. when it comes to your module as well as all the modules we're producing and all the main coursework. So I think that's really cool. It's really clarifying in my head like what we're bringing to the marketplace here, which is that like next level of thinking about Facebook, because the entry level shit gets you through the door. It kind of works, which is deceptive.
Yes. Yeah, no, this is the next level thing. Really, there are certain things that go from being good at something to being excellent. And I hate to say it in that sense because I don't like to ever be calling myself excellent or great at anything. But I think there are certain things that really differentiate. There's like a little fine tuning that makes things have a lot of scale or a lot of profit or decreased costs, but they're just little steps in the beginning. And I think that when they're implemented, the guy who's doing 1K or 1500 a day, these types of little things build up to get you to the 5K or the 10K a day because you are always constantly cutting your testing costs, which I don't think people think about because they always say, okay, what did I make today? I made 2K. Well, if you hadn't spent 600 bucks on testing, you would have made 2,600, but you don't know how to test right, or you forgot to turn things off or whatever. So I think that these overlooked things are what take people from like 500 to 1,500 days to 5K plus is the insertion of these type of testing methods because it allows you to not have like scales that misfire. Like you go ahead, you scale and the leads are too expensive. You avoid all of that error making, you avoid excessive test costs. So by the time that you step on the gas, it's ready to go. It gives you what you want. You can count on it, and you end up getting Facebook to pump out the most profit.
That's really interesting. This it echoes really what you talked about at FBML as well with the checking your parachute, making sure your ducks are in a row essentially before you hit that gas. And I could see it being hugely beneficial to our audience especially. So let's just talk about discipline for a second. You've talked a lot about discipline. I know personally in our conversations, you're someone who seems to have a lot of personal discipline. In some ways, I'm sure it ebbs and flows at times, but you're someone who's sort of like you've kind of transformed your life in some ways through discipline. Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, for sure. So like, majority of my life, well, maybe not majority anymore, but I was just really a wild man. I've always been kind of freewheeling, fast talking, quick thinking, and that really kind of pushed me along the road pretty well. And then I guess as I've gotten older, I just realized there were times to kind of curtail that, tighten up and discipline, and I just saw like real increased performance. And I started to feel this kind of personal satisfaction or pleasure in exhibiting discipline. I think like the two things that I would say like the last 10 years of my life that I'm the most happy that I found, was discipline and patience. Because I feel like when you start to establish discipline and you start to have patience, the really big stuff starts to happen. When you're just pushing quickly, you can make little bursts happen, but they don't become, consistent and systematic. So at one point, I was like super overweight, partying all the time, drinking all the time, and I woke up one day and I just said, look, like enough. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I just completely quit drinking. I went on a very regimented intermittent fasting diet, which I still adhere to. I started exercising 4 days a week. I started doing yoga, and it all happened at the same time. And every time I took like one little step of I got up and I went to the gym, or I didn't eat bullshit at 10 in the morning. It just kind of kept building and feeling better and better until it became habit. And now it's just a huge part of my life, and it's been able to really create a lot of time and efficiency for me. So I really believe in discipline and
In your
patience.
personal and professional life, it sounds like, which is really cool. And I think this is like a really important story for our audience because I imagine our audience is a lot of younger performance marketers, and there's a lot of like there are very little boundaries in the life of a performance marketer. You're making good money quite often, so spending is something. Your hours or whatever they want you to be. You just have to like look at a computer all day basically. And so
Yeah.
I feel like that this sort of evolution that you've gone through is something that a lot of people are looking for. And at the same time, because we're sort of outside the box thinkers and we're outside of the box workers, we know that like personal betterment is at our core. We're not just slaving away at a corporate job and punching the clock kind of thing. These are people that are on that journey. I think that journey towards like self betterment. So I feel like your story is something that will resonate a lot with people.
Yeah, this is a big thing for me. I think that there was a point that I realized that I make my money with my brain. Like at the end of the day, my cash comes from my thinking. And I just decided to alleviate as much thinking as possible from my day. And our brain does it automatically. Like when we take a look at like brands or logos, when we see Starbucks or McDonald's, we don't read Starbucks or McDonald's. Our brain automatically takes the information in, recognizes it, and functions off of it. So I started to just make a personal iteration or plan. I started wearing the same thing every day, take away that decision making, started to systemize what time I ate and where I go and my regimen and my schedule so that the bulk of my brain power, which is how I make my money, could be focused on making money as opposed to all these little tiny decisions throughout the day.
That were
So
irrelevant to you in the
discipline,
long run.
exactly, exactly. Like the clothes thing. It's like I had tons, I used to work for a law firm. I had tons of suits and badass clothes, all of this Louis Vuitton and Ferragamo and all of this type of stuff. And I realized that at the end of the day, I only wore 5 outfits. I had like 5 outfits that were like my go-to outfits, but I had a closet full of stuff and I would wake up and I would have like 30 minutes of trying to decide how to do this. And I was like, what a waste of brain power, and I just got rid of all of this. So when I hit my flow, I'm going to the same gym, same yoga studio, same places to eat, so that all I got to do is kind of glide through life and think to make money. And I think also too, a lot of affiliates have got onto it of getting virtual assistants. I outsourced my entire life and every task years ago. Like anything, it's really an arbitrage for me. Like I know that my time is worth X amount of dollars. So anything that I can pay someone to do in my life for a smaller amount of money, I just do it. I outsource every function of my life so I can just work, think
Yeah.
about how to make money, and enjoy time with my lady. That's it.
My wife was just telling me about a study that showed this, that you actually get more pleasure from paying someone to do something you don't want to do than buying a material good of the same value, essentially like a new
Yeah,
shirt or
for
something.
sure,
It's just like,
for
and, and,
sure,
and it's good for the economy, and it's all
totally.
over, kind of a good thing. So one of the things, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think what it is too is that not only do I like paying someone to do all the different assets or do all the different things I need to get done, but I like to pay people to do it better than myself because I really see myself kind of like as a business, because my time is optimized to make money. So if I have people that are superior at these type of things than I am, my overall influence to the world or my overall output as a business kind of are increased. So it's having people that are better at these things than me do all of the things, so my overall presentation of the world is a lot better.
It reminds me of the Jay-Z song, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a
I'm a businessman.
businessman."
Absolutely.
You know, that's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
pretty much the affiliate life. And also, what you're speaking, this is something that came to mind that comes back to me a lot is a book by David Lynch, the filmmaker, one of my favorite filmmakers. He wrote a book because he's really big into transcendental meditation. And
Okay.
so he wrote a book called Catching the Big Fish. And it's exactly kind of
Okay.
what you spoke to about earlier, which is, you live this life where you reach for the mouth pleasure of a McDonald's cheeseburger or something. You reach for a frappuccino. All these things are these little wins for yourself, these little dopamine hits. And right now, for
Yeah.
me, a lot of that is the phone and the Instagram likes. Like I'm right
Yes.
now, I'm kind of personally caught in that a little bit. And so we kind of are going for these little fish all the time that give us these little wins that are in the long run hollow. And when you're able to have some discipline over those things, you're able to focus on the big fish. And those are the things that really
Yes.
drive the peak experiences in life, which is kind of what we're
Yes.
after.
Yeah, this is a huge point. And I don't even know if you know this or not, but no one has my phone number except my wife. Not one person on earth. Like, I don't receive any phone calls because I don't want my experience, I don't want my life interrupted. Like, I want to have my time on my terms. So I have no notifications for Skype, email, Instagram, Facebook, phone, text, WhatsApp. So my phone is basically useless until I decide to engage the outside world. So my day is never interrupted. I'm always proactively contacting as opposed to being contacted. And I think that's because I also realize, probably because I'm getting older, is that, if time is a currency, which frankly it is,
The
it's a
only currency,
non
maybe.
yeah, and it's non-renewable.
Yeah.
So it has a higher value than cash. So when it comes to the outsourcing portion, an hour of my time in this limited 80, hopefully 100-year life, what is the value of this? I'd rather have the time, and that's really what the money should be for, is to create more time so we can either have more time to work on our business, experience our life, and just really be present. I mean, I just went away to Thailand for a week, and I turned it all off for 7 days. No screen, no laptop, no iPhone, no social. no social media, no email, no Skype, WhatsApp, nothing. I just walked away from it, and my brain felt very refreshed and reflective, and I had high value thinking again, as opposed to like reactive, I'm going to respond to an email. I had really nice proactive thoughts on how to guide my business and how to adjust things. I found solutions to problems that had been kind of spinning around for me with a while, but once I'd given it this time to kind of blossom, it was amazing the power my brain had when it wasn't distracted by reactive life.
And in the background, this is something that I find that interesting as well, is that ability to overcome obstacles and solve problems when you're not grinding away on them necessarily, when you're not just like,
Yes.
oh, I got it, like when you're not laying awake at night and thinking about them, when you're actually able
Yes.
to go do a sport or go for a bike or do something and have your brain sort of figuring it out in the background.
Exactly. Exactly. I think we have a really strong internal algorithm. I think we have a subconscious algorithm, and I think we have a conscious algorithm. And I think the subconscious is so much stronger because our rational brain and our ego thinking doesn't get in the way. And sometimes when we're just quiet, that algorithm spits out the answers that we're looking for if you let it.
Very cool. I love all this esoteric stuff, but back to the real algorithm
Yeah,
that we
sorry
care
to go
about.
so
No,
deep.
I
Yeah,
love it. I
sorry.
love it. That's my name on the STM forum, esoteric. I love this shit.
Really?
Um, let's just talk a little bit about one thing that we're at iStack Training. We're teaching all white hat tactics. We think that the future is with working with Facebook on these things. Let's just talk a little bit about what's happening, what you see happening in the landscape. Last week or 2 weeks ago now, Facebook actually put out this article that was calling out cloakers, calling out black hat. I see that as a big step towards them sort of engaging in that war. They're never going to win it, but it seems like the tide has turned sort of against the black hat way of thinking. What are your thoughts on that?
Look, I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money on Black Hat, and when I came into the industry and I kind of saw both sides, I never took any moral stance on it one way or another.
It's a
Um,
game.
yeah, just it is what it is. But the business model of it, for me, to always be as good as my last dollar and always be as good as like the day before because maybe tomorrow the whole thing is broken. I just couldn't deal with that idea of losing accounts and going through this kind of drama. And I see it as a business model for some, but as time has gone on in the industry, I've seen a lot more people having problems with this. It's just become more difficult and more difficult. And I'd never really seen Facebook just straight up just call it out. There's always like the
Mm-hmm.
rumors and murmurs of like, oh, they know what's going on. They make a lot of money off of it, and this is going to happen or that's going to happen. But a few weeks ago, like on the Facebook blog, they straight up talked about using artificial intelligence to stop cloakers. And I'd never seen the word cloaker like in any type of official publication or whatever. And I think Facebook is smart. When they put their AI on something, I think that it's probably going to be pretty efficient. So for me, when I had to make my choice of which way to go, and I went with White Hat, it was for a longevity point of view, because I feel like maybe even less ROI, not really always less ROI, but let's even say potentially less ROI. I think there's just higher profit if you have a more sustainable business, and I'm just all about the money. I really look at the long-term cash. How will I make more money over a year as opposed to a week? And if I can build something that's sustainable, then and also if you can tell with my systems and everything else, I like things that are stable and sustainable that I don't need to think about. That's truly a business is a machine that makes you money when you're not having to drive it. When it knows to do on its own and everybody can handle things on their own, there are no emergencies and it's just smooth. To me that's a business. That's something you can sell or something you can feel really stable with. And I just never felt that stability was there with the black hat side.
It's a lot of small fish. It can be big, I'm
It's
sure. I'm
hard.
sure it can be quite big fish on a day-to-day basis, but they're always escaping you, and it's that sort of perpetual game.
I just don't have the personality or the heart to handle it. I think it's a young man's game. You know what I mean? Like maybe when I was younger, I could have handled it, but at this point, it's just like I love white hat. You can make extreme amounts of money. And look, even for black hat guys, like look, you net 20K, 30K in a day. It's a sick number. And
Yeah.
when you do it on the white hat side, you can do it for a bunch of days. Like there was a kid yesterday that I saw that did like 360K in revenue, white hat. E-commerce.
E-commerce. I saw that on Tim Bird's group. That was incredible, that post.
Man, like I don't know, right? But in like the history of Black Hat, how many people did 360K in a day? Probably not that many. But now the thing is this kid is probably still going to do at least 250 a day for another 5 to 7 days until his campaigns burn out, let's say,
Yeah.
right? If you have that opportunity to do something like this and you can make it continue, even if the stuff fades down to 100 a day, you just don't really have that opportunity, I don't think, on the other side. So I just think white hat is where the biggest, really where the biggest money is at. If you break through that plateau, because I don't know, the opportunity for scale, you need stabilities to grow profit margins that big. You need to have scale. In order to have scale, you need to have access to a lot of traffic. In order to have access to a lot of traffic, it's almost necessary to do white hat, I think.
Yeah. It's where the big fish are.
Yes.
Nice. So one of the things we'll just talk briefly about this. Being a white hat advertiser, you maintain a really close relationship with Facebook, and your talk was actually specifically at FBML was specifically about your how a talk with your Facebook rep saved you, was it a lot of money basically?
Dude,
On,
it increased the ROI so much in one day. It like changed the whole game for me.
and that
One
was
nugget.
about your bid to budget ratio, which is something
Yeah.
that people can check out in the FBML recordings. But talk a little bit about your more recent discussion with them, where they talked about some of the new things coming down the pipe. You don't need to go into too much detail on these new products because we'll leave that to people to kind of discover. But
Sure.
what did these new products speak to you about what what Facebook's focus is going forward?
Yeah, that's a good way to word it. So, I'm very fortunate by being here in Tel Aviv. Like literally, the Facebook office is 2 blocks away. So I get invited to all of their different things: product launches, interviews on products, talking to engineers, as well as having a great relationship with my rep and people to help me run the campaign. So we lean on this to the maximum. And what's interesting is I've been able to get a lot of insight into what their goals are, and they're not always what we would think. And I would say that right now, for me as a CPA marketer, it's all about cost per conversion and profit. That's it. I only care about the cash at the end of the day. Whereas when I see them design a lot of their products, they're concerned also about pacing. I don't know why. And now also lifetime value of customers. So they are really,
Ooh, that's
they're
smart.
really updating things now or making products to allow you to target lifetime value of customers. They launched a little bit ago value-based lookalikes where you can upload a bunch of converters and at different prices. Let's say you have leads of different values. One is 10, 20, 30. You include this in the lookalike and they'll build custom lookalikes based on this lifetime value of a customer. Now, right in the campaigns very soon, you'll be able to build campaigns with this LTV targeting that will understand when you post back the currency, you'll be able to, or it will optimize in real time for people that spend more money per conversion as opposed to a conversion and just a regular conversion. So they're really,
Oh,
yeah, they're
interesting.
really thinking about the long term for us. And I think they're putting a lot of efforts into e-commerce and lead generation because they see that there's a lot of action there. I get the feeling that Facebook feels a lot better or more the people that work there feel very satisfied working with say CPA people because it's measurable, and a lot of the new products are
Yeah.
are built for us. There's also some cool stuff they have now. They'll be coming out with a ad budget allocation. So if you have a campaign with multiple ad budgets, you'll be able to set a budget at the campaign level, and it'll allocate the spend to the best performing ad sets, which will be like a complete new restructure.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
they're coming out with this is a great one. You'll be able to set up ad sets, and it will change the ad copy to the language of the IP. And you can do it up to like five languages or the browser. Yeah. So basically, I can run an ad, show it worldwide, or show it to 5 separate countries, and it will automatically translate the ad copy for me.
Do you trust that?
Not really. I don't trust
The
anything until I try it.
translations?
No, I don't
Yeah,
trust.
until you test it.
I don't trust anything until I test it. And also, too, like they said it pretty clearly as well. And I'm gonna get access to a bunch of these betas. I just haven't asked this week because I want to play with them. But they said, look, we're giving you these betas, but they may not make it. Like they may be good, they may not. Like we're launching these things, but they may never make it to the marketplace, and that's why. Like I think what's their whole thing about go fast and break things or whatever?
Yeah.
They think things up, they launch it, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But at the baseline, you can see where their thought process is and efforts for us is to make the whole system work better for us. Make everything more effective for lead generators and for e-commerce guys. So that's why I think if you do Facebook White Hat, you're just given a lot of tools and support for them to make money like we want to make it with their help.
I've also heard them say, Black Hat is one of those things they know exists, they don't want it. But I've also heard them say, sort of off the record at times, like, if you're doing this much on Black Hat, like, you have the skills to do this in White Hat too. And like, they're not going to maybe say that on the record, and maybe I shouldn't say it on the podcast, but there's almost like a Black Hat rehabs. Maybe that's what our course is. Maybe that's what we'll do with the course is rehab people over to the White Hat, because it is fully possible. If you have the skills to be a Black Hat, you can be a White Hat.
For sure. Like it's a completely different game. I mean, like I really think that you got guys that are great White Hat guys that would crush Black Hat, great Black Hat guys that would crush White Hat. Like if you're someone who likes to solve problems and fix things, you're going to be a great media buyer. You just have a different skill set. We have to optimize traffic because we have lower ROI, and they have to optimize farms or cloakers because they have a different problem. I can tell you this. I went to a mastermind in Berlin, and it was really like a White Hat mastermind, but I would say 50% of the guys there were Black Hat, more. And it was because they really wanted to switch to something else because they feel like it's not stable. But I don't think anybody's ever shown them stuff that can make as much money, or they don't see it. But I can tell you, I think it's a fallacy. I think there's tons of money in White Hat, but I think it's a learning curve as well, but a fast one, especially like with the level of materials that are out there now. You can learn White Hat super fast. And I think we will see a lot of guys transition, as time goes on, especially if Facebook clamps down with AI and stuff. I think that you're going to see a lot of people switch over.
I think that's probably the trend that I see as well. So let's jump gears here for a second here. So you jumped onto the stage at FBML, blew everyone away, went super well, and since then the amount of and you're interested in teaching, which is why we're working together on a few things. We're working on this acceleration module. You're going to come back to Bangkok for FBML Asia with a new speech there. We're going to be working on a top secret course coming up, which we'll talk a little bit after about. But what are the top 3 questions that you're, because people are reaching out to you now, is what I'm trying to say. People are actually reaching out to you quite a bit more after your exposure at FBML. What are the top 3 questions that you're getting from people about your speech and just about media buying in general?
Man, people are smart. This says I'm a pretty much behind the scene guys. I was never really out there in the affiliate world that much, so now I've had like a lot more exposure to affiliates, and they're smart, man. The questions that they've been asking me are really excellent. The guys that were at FBML that followed up on this have been really pretty high level in their thinking. And I would say most of the questions come back to the whole manual bidding thing, amounts, how much to bid, how much budget, what's the ratio, audience overlap, stuff that were really pertinent to the talk, and stuff that
nuanced
real
questions,
nuanced questions. And I don't really understand why there's like super confusion about it. And I guess this goes back to what I was saying earlier about testing. Like I just hate guessing. I hate confusion. Like I just test till I know. And I've tried to impart that to people and just say, look, test it, find out, do it yourself. Here's my idea, but maybe my idea doesn't work right for you. Do it yourself. So a lot of it has been about how to test without having audience overlap or auction overlap in ad sets, size of audiences, size of bids, size of budgets. A lot of really good questions. I've been impressed by what people have going on. Like there are people making money. Like I definitely don't think that FBML is it's definitely not a bunch of noobs. The questions were legit, and people are like making money. I haven't talked to a lot of people, or really anybody, that's spending like 20, 50 bucks a day and like, hey, why is it not converting? It's all guys that are spending some real money. They've been doing this, they get it, and they're just looking for the tweaks to really kind of amp up their game and step on the gas a little bit. maybe verify some of the thoughts they've had, catch a fresh look at a few things. But it's been fun. I've learned some things as well, man. Some of the e-commerce guys have been really helpful, so it's been super fun to talk to some people that were there.
Nice. Yeah, it's funny. We have a quote from someone who talked to us via support, who thanked us for taking their spend essentially from, I think it was $1,500 a day up to over like 20 grand a day, and it was all about manual bidding, which is something that you spoke quite a lot about. Which is
Dude,
something that
I
I
got
think
screenshots.
I think it intimidates people. I think manual bidding sort of like intimidates people. They'd rather just sort of leave it up to Facebook. But in your experience, that's not the best way to go about things.
No, like here's the thing, and I'll just be super clear about it. So you got two type of bids. You got manual bidding, you got automatic bidding. Okay? When you're speaking to the Facebook algorithm, you tell it what you want to do. It is two choices. It has how fast it's going to spend your budget as a priority, which is the pacing issue, or the cost per lead. When you set it on automatic, you're telling Facebook, spend my money. That's my priority. Spend it. Not that it wants to spend it expensively, but your goal is just to spend the money. Whereas when you set it on manual bidding, your goal is the cost per lead. So unless you have a super high ROI vertical and you want to run automatic to make it just go fast, that's one thing. But if you care about the cost per lead, you don't want to give Facebook the wrong instructions. You want to tell Facebook, my goal is to keep the cost in line. And I think the thing about manual bidding is, and maybe one of the reasons that I really like it is, my real foundation knowledge of media buying comes from natives, which is manual. So I prefer to control my own bids. The more that I have to leave thinking up to an algorithm, the more that I have to depend on something that breaks or depend on something that I don't necessarily understand how it works. So in my mind, it creates a new variable that I don't have control over, and I don't like that. So manual bidding really gives you more control over your destiny, if you will, and I greatly prefer that.
That makes sense. Now, yeah, you perfectly segued into it. So let's talk a little bit about native. Native, you're a Facebook ad expert, but I feel like part of you, like part of your heart is really with native advertising. Explain that a little bit. Explain, where it came from and what you hope to do with it in the future.
Yeah, like my first big days were on natives. You know what I'm saying? Like my first 20K or my first 30K or were on natives. And
Was that in solar or something else?
that was solar. That was
Solar as
solar.
well.
Yeah, and I mean, I bought a lot of traffic on Gemini, Taboola, Outbrain, Rev Content, MGID. And I really think that the foundation building blocks and knowledge that I have of media buying comes from natives um, because it's manual. So I had to learn and understand and have like the full responsibility to make things make money. There wasn't just setting it up and letting the pixel do the work. And the basic principles of the CPM and CPC versus CPC, I think it's important. Like here, when I'm training media buyers in the office, I make them do natives first because like
Mm.
I don't want them to just. I'll give the example like this. I'd rather have someone I'm teaching to learn how to drive a car. They learn on stick, and then they get automatic. But they should at least understand how the function works. And if you buy
Yeah.
on natives, if you're good at buying on natives, the transition to Facebook is very easy because you already have the building blocks. Where when they go backwards and they learn Facebook first and they're used to just optimizing for images, test audience, setup, let conversion pixel do the work, they're not worth anything on natives. So this is a big thing for me with natives. I like the fact that it has like a basic building blocks, also scaling and predictability. On Facebook, you take a budget from 1K to 10K, you're just going to completely thrash ROI normally. Where on natives, you find publishers that work and you turn up the volume, you will not lose ROI. You're just going to get more of that good traffic, and I love that. When you find something sweet and you can just say, okay, crank it, turn the budget up to 10K, let's go, and know that you're going to get the same results. It's a really nice feeling. And also, it doesn't burn out as quickly. Really, I had campaigns on Taboola that I would set up, optimize for a little bit, let's say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, find my publishers, set it up, and then just refresh the images like once a week, once every 2 weeks, and not even fresh images, just the same images, fresh upload, trick the ad server a little bit with some impressions, get it kind of moving again, and it would just keep making cash every day. And I can't say I've
Hmm.
gotten to that point with Facebook that I'm not like having to check on Facebook a lot. So I
Yeah.
really like the consistent money making possibilities of natives.
Nice. Well, we won't go into too much depth yet because we haven't set a date exactly, but we will be working together on a native ad masterclass, so people can make sure to subscribe at iStack Training and keep their eyes out for that, because everything that we've been able to do for Pops and now that we're doing for Facebook and the masterclass, we're going to be doing for native as well still in 2017 here. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I'm super pumped about that because I got my system so in place. It's like I could really give people the formula. Step one, step two, step three, step four. It's like super systematic on natives. There's very little guessing. So I'm excited to kind of break that off and help people out with that because I really do have a love for natives. So I'm excited for people to check that out.
Very cool. So last question here. I brought this up in my last couple podcasts. One of the reasons that we're driven to succeed in affiliate marketing and just driven to win is what I like to call the peak experiences that it affords us. These peak travel experiences. Like what do you don't seem you're not wearing Hugo Boss suits anymore. I don't know if you have a Rolly. I didn't see a Rolly on there. But what are peak experiences to you at this point in your life that you are looking that are sort of enabled? Like obviously family, obviously your wife, obviously things like that. But what are the peak experiences that drive you to kind of continue to win in this business?
Yeah, I mean, really, I think as I mentioned, like I'll give you an example that kind of illustrates both discipline and uninterrupted time for myself. After I shut down the call center, started generating leads, started making some pretty good money, started working with my partner now, and I was in Argentina. I was living in Buenos Aires, but I was in the south, basically at the South Pole, Patagonia, and there are glaciers there. I got a hostel there, $8 a night. Just enjoying on the low, like money didn't matter at all. Just I'm gonna enjoy the experience. And I went out on a glacier. You take a boat out there, you get the ice boots, the ice picks, and you go out into the middle of this glacier. And I hiked out there, and they made us a cocktail with like million-year-old ice. They just chip away ice cubes. So you're drinking a drink made with ice cubes that are super old. And it was completely uninterrupted. But at the same time, when I got back to the hostel, and I hadn't checked anything, I hadn't checked stats, I hadn't talked to anybody, whatever, logged in, and I'd made like over 15K. And I think this, I was thinking like, yo, I'm paying $8 a night at this just, piece of trash hostel in Argentina.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking like, I was staying in the bunk bed room. You know what I mean? I wasn't even in a private room. I was in the bunk beds with all these people, which made it like this sweet, super sweet victory. And I was just thinking, it's like the business was able to run itself and make a bunch of money, which allowed me to have uninterrupted time. It didn't give me a bunch of money to pop bottles or buy new cars or anything, but it allowed me to go experience something without being interrupted for an entire day and still make money at the same time. And I really like when those things happen. That's really I like it when I can enjoy my time and my business that I spent a lot of time, money in building, and I've made it stable. So it's still making money for me while I get this time benefit. And that's really what I do it for at this point.
That makes perfect sense. That illustrates, your sort of personality, what you've built here super well. That's awesome. James, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Totally.
People, James is going to be a big part of iStack Training coming up. You can catch him on FBML, the recordings. You should check out FBML Asia on iStackTraining.com because you can now buy tickets on our website for our Bangkok event. He's producing an acceleration module for the Facebook Masterclass on testing, and then the native Masterclass, which we're going to be working on later in the year. Super exciting. If people want to get in touch with you, what do you recommend? And also, what plugs do you have?
Yeah, I mean, okay, first off, on the plug side, Purple Leads, we got the best offers in the game, hands down. Providing lookalike data, landing pages, whatever you need to get it going. And I think it's something that, Purple Leads is me, and it comes, I'll tie it in with my contact information and everything, but it's just important for anybody who checks this stuff out. I love this shit. I live and breathe media buying, Facebook, natives, lead gen, e-com. This is one of my passions. So I do like to talk shop. I like to find nuggets in every conversation that I have. If it's an expert to a noob, it doesn't really matter to me. You know what I mean? So you can hit me up on Facebook Messenger is where most people reach out to me. And that's cool for me. But yeah, hit me up and check out like these courses and stuff. Like I really I believe in it. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. It's something I do every single day. I enjoy teaching my team. Every morning in the conference room I'm sitting in right now, we got a morning meeting that's about learning. I make my team
Yep.
watch a video on learning every single day. And I enjoy learning with them and I enjoy teaching. So it's like, look, if you got questions or whatnot, reach out to me and hit me up. Or if you got ideas, whatever, let's just, talk shop and learn a little bit about media buying. I really enjoy it. So that's my plug.
That's awesome. That's what I love about iStack training. What we're trying to do here is there's a lot of gurus in this space that are like, hey, implement my system for 20K overnight and blah, blah, blah. But everyone that we like to work with recognizes that this is a long-term business, takes some discipline, but there are systems that can allow you to reach incredible heights. So I think you're a perfect fit with the iStack team. So anyways, thanks again today. Enjoy the rest of your evening and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, buddy. Be cool.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you, James. You too. Bye.